Hello, hello, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us on Downtime. I do get naughty. That's why I prefer having the Downtime channel so we can do shenanigans there. And if we get hit with a strike, that strike ends up. What is it? If we get hit with a strike, that strike ends up going on that channel, and then on the In Time channel, I try to. So we'll see. I may. Maybe as soon as this is done, I'll just cut it. The other thing was by putting it to copyrighted music. If once the music triggers, I can instantly do a yank on the entire clip. So we'll see. Hopefully, we don't get taken down for that. You'd think, well, Paramount is probably just so pissed. They're gonna go after. Yeah, maybe that was a bad idea. All right, we'll see.
Incidentally,
yeah,
that's not AI. That's an actual actor.
Oh, that was an actual actor. And then what the face was...
You have to search for it, but there's a making of video.
I'm going to have to see that. Well, I'm still a little traumatized by that South Park. It was a good South Park episode, but I'm still a little traumatized by it. And that was his real, a real penis used in the thing, and they had to put the eyeballs on it in order to get past the censors. So what they basically did was they said, okay, no, this is a character. And as long as it's a character, they can actually, it gets by the censors somehow, I guess. So that was it. There's some just mean comments in the live chat there. So, yeah, poor actor, but he did a great job. Damn. So that was a clip. That's what we hadn't seen it after it aired, and we were just we were sitting there talking about Paramount getting stuck in this position where they just paid them the money, and even South Park. Now South Park did not air their next episode, and the claim is that they're doing different episodes. They've decided to reorder the schedule based on having. That's the claim. It may be that they're done too. That was sort of the meta commentary of Cartman talking with Butters at the end, like we may be done for. This may be it. We maybe have just sort of we've gone too far and things aren't going back. So I don't know. It's interesting. I think the producers of South Park basically said they will never stop. There will never stop being a need for that kind of satire. They will never stop doing the show. They will continue until they're taken off the air, which somebody is going to do at some point.
This is a great segue into today's topic.
Yes.
Because the corporations get to determine what gets aired, what music you listen to, what movies you get to see, everything. And all of those large corporations are owned by ultra-rich oligarchs who basically control the feed that we get. So our view of reality gets tainted every time we tune in, so to speak.
Well, and for me, Murdoch is the quintessential, epitome of that, and what he's done with Fox News. And I have friends who don't realize what just how bad a lens Fox News is. I think I've got a screenshot, and this is a tad unfair. It's more for the comedy. It's not a direct. But so this was, I think, yesterday. On Fox News, administration seeks to repeal major Obama-era regulation. This is the carbon dioxide that we're talking about. And these two were on to talk about the climate change hoax. And while they're talking about it, the Fox Weather Extreme Heat Alert says 162 million people. That's out of 300 million in the U.S. So more than half are under an extreme weather alert. Hottest summer in history, 116 degrees, I think they said, in Minnesota.
But there is no climate change.
Yeah.
Fox has said that's the case, and we cannot argue with them. They are the authorities on this.
Well, and it's like, okay, Rupert Murdoch has kids. I suspect he knows, and this gets back to what I had said on Tuesday's show, which is like during the COVID crisis, when it hit, everybody at Fox News took their COVID shots willingly. Now, they were required to take them to get into work, but none of them said, "I'm not going into work." None of them said, "Oh, there's the vaccines." They took them. They took the COVID vaccines. It was mandated across News Corp. And then they went on air and said, the vaccines are evil. Nobody should take. I mean, literally, Tucker Carlson was on air saying, you're a fool if you take that vaccine. And he was vaccinated. That was the only way he was let into the fucking building. Oh. And so does Murdoch not give a shit about his kids? Does he not think about things that way? Is he just a short-term thinker?
A lot of it is they live in this bubble of ultra wealth, and they are convinced that the ultra wealth will shield them from the bad effects of anything. You know, you could see the wall of water of the tsunami coming at you on the beach, but you're going to be, as a rich person, absolutely convinced that somehow the tide will magically part and you won't even get damp. That's the mentality.
Yeah.
And, you know, the apocryphal vision of, you know, when the end of the world comes, they'll all be in their little fortified gated communities with paid guards keeping them safe from the rest of us as we're outside starving to death. You know, and they see nothing wrong with that. This is the prosperity gospel writ large.
Yeah. That is it. Well, and it's prosperity gospel. It's neoliberalism. The idea that basically, if you earned your wealth after your daddy gave you $1 million when you graduated from the Ivy League institution that they paid for, but after all of that, you went and earned your wealth. That proves you're superior, and by definition, it really doesn't matter what happens to exactly. Other people. Mitt Romney was just like, you know, well, my parents didn't give me a thing. He, to the best of my understanding, was being honest in as much as his family didn't give him any money. And whether that was because of some Mormon like the idea that inheritance shouldn't go, or because of, you know, a genuine, in the true neoliberal school, you should never inherit anything from your family. I found that they don't adhere to that, but yeah, he still did get the education and the contacts. He started working in a business owned by one of his father's best friends, and went straight into Bain Capital from that. So
you already start out ahead because your family has contacts nobody else could have. You've gone to the prestigious school that opens so many doors that nobody else has got that access. You know, you probably pledged one of those fraternities where they have the secret handshake and whack you with a paddle or something, and suddenly you're all good with that if you can give boss of, you know, Corporation X the secret handshake. That's the kind of thing that goes on, and they're all convinced that that's not part and parcel of getting that leg up. Even if they don't get an initial wad of, here's $3 million, go out and get rich on it.
Yeah, it's a dose of denial that is, and speaking with people who have benefited from that, and just seeing it doesn't count. And it's like, can you give me a good reason why? Well, everybody knows it doesn't count. Everybody in your circle knows it doesn't count. Everybody to whom it applies. Oh, not us, but.
Well, I think we have to be fair. You know, for certain groups, I'm going to guess, probably includes you. It certainly included me. You have familial contacts were built up from your father. So when I was looking for work, it was, you know, talk to Bob, who used to work with me here, and he may know someone who can get you a job, or things like that. You know, it's normal, that web of contacts that people develop. And it's just that some people are lucky by birth to have been born into a situation where that network exists at a level that it's really beneficial to you. Whereas other people don't have that. My father certainly didn't when he started out. He was he was the product of an emigre who worked as a longshoreman and died when my dad was 14. He was murdered.
Oh, my.
Now, he's involved in labor organizing, and he was one of the leaders of the labor union. So the corporation said, make him go away.
I don't know why I suddenly hailed back to the South Park episode, so I lost my train of thought. Well, okay, it's Bush was people had said this about Bush too, and I like this. This is the best analogy I can think of, which is born on third base and thought they hit a triple. It's okay to be born on third base. Some people are going to be born on third base. It's perfectly fine to be born on third base. It's exactly. You can't. There's always going to be inequities in the system. And that doesn't mean you shouldn't try to improve it, but there will always be inequities in it. And actually, to some extent, the inequities that there are now are so much better than they were 200, 500, 1,000 years ago. So, I mean, when we talk about a class warfare, in the medieval ages, that was, when they went to their neighbors and grabbed them and spit roasted them alive and all those other things. We don't have to worry about that quite so much anymore. But that doesn't mean the effects aren't necessarily just as profound, and that we're kind of headed in that direction if you start talking about a permanent underclass, a permanent, working where there is no mobility because they've literally made it impossible. I
think part of it is that if you're lucky enough to have been born with advantages of that sort, you need to have a realization that that's the class or the case, and not hold it against people who weren't born into such fortunate circumstances. But unfortunately, it's all too common for people born with those advantages to look down upon people who don't have those advantages. And, they're struggling as hard as those people down there are trying to get up. The people at the top are struggling to push them back down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and and the interesting thing is, the exception are the people who genuinely did earn it themselves. Bill Gates, Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett is the best example, right? And he's in my view, he's almost a hero, and the reason is because he really did do what everybody else talks about, which is he didn't have a wealthy family, he wasn't born into, and he went out and he did it the right way too. I mean, he didn't cheat the system, and here he is having earned his money, and he talks about charity. It's like it's so the people who talk about it's easy for everyone to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps, and that's what we should all be doing. The people who say that are the ones who were born on third base. The ones who hit the ball and got to third base and are standing on third base next to them with billions of dollars are saying that was a lot harder than it could have been or should have been. It's like,
I've lived through something that is an example of exactly that. My parents live on the other side of the peninsula that I'm on, but it used to be that every year the fire department would put on a big fireworks show for the community. It's not unusual, but they don't have a whole lot of money, so it was kind of it was a nice show, but it wasn't anything super special. The guy who lived next to my parents was a millionaire who made his money, I think, in shipping containers or something. And he was a multimillionaire. And so he came to my dad one time and said, hey, I know you're in big with the fire department. You're a fire commissioner. You were volunteer fireman for a long time. How about I give you guys $10,000 and you make a larger fireworks show that, by fortunate chance happens to be launched right in front of my house on the bay. And my dad said, well, it requires us to get people certified as pyrotechnicians, and we'll have to create special boat and get special fireproof gear to do it. How about you sweeten the deal and give us another $10,000 so we can buy the defibrillator that we don't have for this department? And he kind of laughed and said, okay, twist my arm. You got your other 20, you get 20 grand from me. So 10 for the fireworks and 10 for the defibrillator. And every year it was the same kind of process. He'd give the fire department X amount of money, half of which was intended to go to the fireworks and half was to go to, some big piece of equipment. And it was all anonymous. Nobody knew who this guy was that was doing it. And he did other things like this in the community, but it was always anonymous. He didn't want to, make a big deal of it. He was just doing it because he was a decent guy and he'd made all this money and he understood he was fortunate. Other people should get some sort of payback benefit out of it. When he passed, his two sons took over the property, and immediately, boom, all the donations for fireworks and special gear went away. Mm. And it was constant fighting about where the property line lay, and you need to cut that tree down because it's blocking my view and everything. And it was, that group of people who get born into a fortunate circumstance and think that makes, they're now qualified because I had to work to get this. Yeah, you sat on your ass and played video games until dad died.
Yeah.
So... and I think that's more common than not.
No, it appears that way. I mean, it's we're on the outside looking in, but it certainly does appear that way. So I always get through. It's Michael's. Member for 5 months. Lance and Nick, you are awesome. Continue being awesome. Well, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I'm really glad we do this show, and I'm glad it's sort of a more informal when we sit and have a longer chance to process topics we're interested in instead of just like doing a rundown of the news. So. One of the things that I was, we've talked about this oligarchy, and it's funny because the Epstein, we all have a different relationship to the Epstein Saga, and we all have sort of different takes on it. I think the first most visceral that everybody gets is absolute revulsion that we even have to deal with this. Why hasn't this already been dealt with? This has been going on for so long. They had him in 2008. So, okay, we move past that. The second one, for me, that comes in after that is our current sitting president is obviously up to his ears in it. He's completely implicated in it. The Republicans are helping someone they now know is guilty and complicit, and they're it's the money is buying that protection, and it's disgusting. And it's the fact that he's got all of this wealth and power that's just insulating him from it. But then there's a third that comes in after that, if you think about it. And you and I have talked about this in an ancillary way before, but the third is the Clintons were on that list too, and I don't know what Hillary may or may not have known. I do think that Hillary is a ruthless human being and would do just about anything to become president. Would she look the other way or turn a blind eye if she knew something? I don't know. I've never met her. I don't know personally.
Honestly, I think the Lewinsky scandal tells us everything we need to know.
Well, and the Lewinsky scandal brings us to Bill, which is Bill. I I liked the guy. He was the guy you could have the beer with. He was all that other stuff. But I kind of have to admit that based on what we know of that guy, it sounds plausible to me that he not only knew, but at least at a minimum level participated and or didn't care. And the Lewinsky scandal is, I think, so what that means
I'm
is
referring less to what Bill did than I am to Hillary's reaction to the Lewinsky scandal.
How so?
Well, I won't say most, but in many marital situations where it comes out that the husband has been unfaithful, divorce results, or at least a temporary separation, something along those lines to sort the issue out.
Yeah.
That didn't happen. And I think it's because this is a marriage not of love, not of convenience, but of political alliance of I scratch your back, you scratch mine, we both further our careers. And so you put up with certain things that happen, even if it's embarrassing or aggravating, simply because the payoff is what you're really looking at.
And then if she's pissed at anything, it's that he's lowered his own political capital in this, which she wanted to take. Not
to criticize, but let's be honest. Would Hillary have ever been able to get elected into the position she got in New York, I think it was? Would she have ever been appointed Secretary of State, as she was, had it not been for her relationship with Bill, that marriage?
Well, not only that, but it's been speculated, and I tend to agree, which was when she ran, she decided to run as kind of her own person and have Bill take a very deep second seat, or a back seat, and that if they had brought him up to because he was still popular, people and they still remembered when he was president that things went reasonably smoothly. So if he was if she had utilized him more, but either pride or whatever it was that she wanted this to be the passing of the baton, I don't know. But so I think you're right.
I would say this goes back to what we were just talking about. Of that, I won't say born into it, but her advancement in the system was through that marriage, right? So, how to put this? You assume that you're going to, because you've risen to first lady and then you got elected and then you got sec state, so you assume you're going to get elected president because you're so good. And I will grant you, her qualifications for the presidency make Trump look like a drooling kindergarten who's got a big spreading wet patch in his trousers. But the way the campaign was run, I think, exemplifies that, because for the last 2 weeks, and I'm going to get the numbers wrong, but bear with me, you get the idea. Trump made something like 36 stops, flying and holding big rallies and keeping the people motivated and all that. Hillary had like less than 20. And I think a lot of it is that hubris of, how can I lose? I had all these advantages. And, that's that same kind of corporate oligarchic mentality of, I'm better than everybody else. I'm certainly better than that orange couch potato. Yeah, you may have been, but honestly, for the last 2 weeks, he tried harder than you did. So maybe if you'd tried harder, that wouldn't have happened. Don't know.
Well, and even her slogan was just a spotlight into the mindset. I'm with her. That's the slogan. she's inevitable, and I'm with her. I follow her. She's the one that.
It's not what can you do for me. It's what I can do for you.
Yes. It was staggeringly arrogant. It was just like, wow, when I heard that.
Yeah. And I know I've mentioned it on here before. And I know that it's kind of a hot button topic for some people, but during that campaign, during the primaries, both Hillary and Sanders came to Seattle for rallies at the same time, or not rallies, but events at the same time. Sanders held a rally that filled the sports stadium to the extent that they had to bump about half capacity of the adjoining sports arena to watch it on Jumbotron of all the people who showed up to hear him speak. And he was speaking to the crowd.
Yeah.
Hillary showed up and held a $10,000 a plate fundraising dinner with, 40 of her closest friends in the Seattle area. And that speaks volumes to people who, find out about this and pay attention. It's like, she doesn't really care about me. She didn't come and talk to me and tell me what she's going to do. She talked and hobnobbed with the bigwigs because they can give her more money. And she's going to pay all those donations back with special deals for them all. She doesn't give a rat's ass about me. And then when you're in that middle ground and maybe leaning a little on one side of that middle ground, when the primaries are over and the guy you thought maybe should have been the nominee gets really badly treated, you immediately look to the other side and go, oh, here is this giant orange golden clad god. Let us worship him.
It was very frustrating to bring up genuine, significant objections to Trump and how he handled himself and the violence at his rallies, and have it thrown in my face what the Debs were doing. Because I was like, yeah, you're not wrong. I'm sorry. I mean, it's a tu quoque. It's the fallacy, it's, if your doctor smokes cigarettes and he comes up to you and says, you should quit smoking, you could sit there, you could say, well, no, I shouldn't because you smoke. No, you really should quit smoking. That the doctor also smokes does not change the reality of the fact that smoking's bad and you should stop. It does make it hard from a visual point of view. If you're committing the same crime, you really can't.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen here? I mean, I do know that we've seen huge wealth inequities in the past. It does, lead to, revolutions. I was thinking, it was a wealth inequity what led to the revolution in France?
Oh, certainly. Although the specifics of that case are really weird.
Do tell.
Well, France collected its taxes through a system called tax farming. So they weren't nobles, they were clerks, but they were hereditary clerks. And it was their job to go out and collect the taxes in the region. Mm-hmm. And then they got paid by skimming off a percentage of what they got and sending the rest on to, the royal treasury. Well, as a result of largely, but not exclusively, the American Revolution in France backing us, the French government was effectively bankrupt and they needed to raise more taxes. So the plan was to create essentially an internal revenue service and centralize all the tax collection so that that amount that was getting skimmed off didn't get skimmed off anymore. Those are the people who were really behind the impetus that got the revolution going.
The people whose wheels weren't getting greased anymore, or
right?
Palms
the tax
weren't
farmers.
Getting greased. Oh God!
Yeah, not exclusively, but they were a major impact on that. And That's one of the things about revolutions is that you can treat your people like absolute dirt. And generally speaking, they won't do anything. They will accept it. Russia being a perfect case in point. It's when you take something away that they have that they get really irate. So take away the hereditary tax farming, and now you have to go out and learn a trade and get a real job, son. Nobody's happy about it.
So losses loom larger. We seem to be more upset about losing what we've got.
Right. And the American Revolution was the same thing, but it was that the colonies had never really paid taxes to the crown. As a result of the French and Indian War, which was very expensive, that the crown had to send all these troops to fight the French off, they started imposing taxes. And the colonists who'd never had to pay taxes before got irate for some reason. You see how this all cascades?
Yeah. So in the U.S. here, I mean, it's a little tough. We're going to end up starting to talk midterms soon. Oh, which actually brings up one great question I wanted to ask you about the midterms. I want to make sure don't let me forget. Everyone in the live chat, don't let us go without asking about the midterms. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to jump right into that, and hopefully I won't forget about the other. But okay, so Texas has realized that their senators are in trouble. They could lose. Sorry, not their senators. Their congressmen are in trouble. They could lose them and hand control of the House over to the Democrats, which I have to tell you right now is probably, in my view, the single most important domestic agenda in recent or in modern U.S. history. Without it, Trump can still suspend Congress if Johnson is in on it, and everything I've seen of Johnson suggests to me that he will. I mean, if they have to. So there's so many things to worry about with the House, and it kneecaps Trump significantly if they lose the House. So that's important. Knowing that. And knowing that in Texas they have, I think it's 3 congressmen who are vulnerable, they're going to redistrict in such a way that they're gerrymandering it so that those 3 basically cannot win. And it's the old saying, instead of electors choosing their congressmen are choosing their electors so that they can stay in power. Now, a number of states, New Jersey, a few others, are coming out and saying, if you do this, we're going to do it too. And there was
what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Good for the gander. So, and there was, in fact, an interview that was a really great interview with, I think it was a governor of one of the states, and he said, "Look, I am against gerrymandering as a policy. It's a bad thing. It's anti-democratic, and it's caused us nothing but trouble. But if they're going to do it to defend the House, we can't sit here and say, well, we have our morals, but we lost and Trump got another 2. I mean, look at what he's done already. And you want him to have 2 more years on top of that without,
somebody controlling him?
Yep. So the new Congress will not even get sworn in. We're going to have to discuss that at some point, that possibility. So what are your thoughts on the quote defensive gerrymandering or the retaliatory gerrymandering?
In a lot of ways, I'm sad that it's likely to happen, but I also realize the absolute necessity of it happening. When one side is playing by the rules and the other side constantly cheats and keeps winning, you're either setting yourself up to just be, seat warmers. You don't have any power. You're never going to, because you're not playing the same rules, the same game that they're playing. So, yeah, I think changing the rules and doing unto them what they're doing to us, yeah.
Well, and Lord knows the Supreme Court approves, so
yeah,
they've made that clear. Gerrymander to your heart's content. It's like,
oh yeah,
wow,
absolutely.
Wow. So, what do you think the prognosis is for sort of I don't want to say crony capitalism. I think it is crony capitalism, but I think that term has been used in a way to weaponize everything that the whole democratic agenda, which is not what. But so we're sitting here facing to bounce off of the Epstein. The reason the Epstein files weren't released, to the best of my understanding and ability to discern, the reason they haven't been released before the Trump administration was because it implicated too many Democrats. So it's both sides. It's both sides. Do I suspect that the Dems are better than the Republicans? Yes, it both looks that way, and it's a convenient thing to suspect because I'm a liberal. So we'll recognize that that's a convenient suspicion. But nonetheless, they're in there. Dems are in there. Republicans are in there, and I would know that even if Clinton's name hadn't been mentioned, because there's no other reason not to drop it under the Biden administration.
Yeah.
So, at that level of corruption, what is it that I mean, this has taken off. Do you think this has taken off to the point where the people on the right are talking revolution, or they're just pissed about this? And yeah.
If it continues, if it holds the attention of the electorate long enough so that it begins to impact the midterms, I think it's kind of the equivalent of our Teapot Dome. It's something that, yeah, both sides are involved, more on one side than the other, but certainly both sides. And it was a scandal that enlightened a lot of people to how broken and corrupt the system was. And then they tried to make changes. And I think that's kind of where we are now. And I think the right's fascination with the authoritarianism and the MAGA movement and everything is because they want to purge all that corruption. The fact that they don't realize that it's their own side that's probably the leading architects of that corruption doesn't matter. They're frustrated. And we know that the Democrats are also frustrated. So I'm hoping, that something will come out of this, that we'll get a big groundswell movement, and ethics laws will be completely overhauled. And hopefully several of the justices in the Supreme Court will get flushed down the toilet with the other turds.
Oh, God, I don't. I want to do a nick of time. I don't know. Do a nick of time on Clarence Thomas and Alito, because he's of them.
He's top dog in corruption.
Yeah, I know. And I when I first started looking into the corruption, I said, "Oh, there's definitely some corruption here." I was like, "Okay, well, case solved. There's some corruption, And then it's like, it doesn't take too long before you realize, wait a minute. It's not that there's some corruption. I'm struggling very hard to find anything that's legitimate. I haven't found a single thing that is just like, wow, like just the definition of corruption. And I still have no doubt that it was his wife that released the Roe v. Wade, the overturn. It was his wife, and they buried it. They're like, oh, nobody releases a court decision in advance. Yeah, unless it's Clarence Thomas's wife, then the rules are different. Which gets right back to the same problem. So it's well, actually, before I get to that, so what are your thoughts on the overturning the climate? It gets back to, I wonder if it's a game of chickens. So in 2008, prior to 2008, the people who were selling the mortgage-backed securities and the credit default swaps had some idea that, while not a Ponzi scheme, it was not unlike a Ponzi scheme, and it could not go on forever. But the more they leveraged, or the leverage couldn't continue going on forever, and they just leverage. But as long as, when all the cards came down, you had a seat, when the music stopped, as long as you had a seat, you'd be fine. But what they didn't realize was it was this huge systemic thing, and then just by the time it came down, it was all of it. There weren't any seats. The music stopped. 100 people standing, no chairs to be found. So it feels like it's that with the cuts to Medicare and Medicaid, with the cuts to it's like you take enough cuts. Speaking of taking away from people, you take away enough cuts, it's like you're looking at either a revolution or societal collapse, one of the two. Now they've done Ford came out and said that for their previous third quarter earnings have been completely obliterated, and they have lost to the tune of $2 billion to the tariffs. The tariffs wiped out, and this is Ford, so this is the company that makes it here in America. There isn't much of a brand. GE, Ford, there's a couple of brands that we can all name that are just American brands, and they've had that get wiped out. The tariffs, including still some 40% tariffs, all these other retaliatory tariffs, by the way, are scheduled to go into effect today. We may be breaking tomorrow, and I don't know what's going to happen. My suspicion is deals. But point being, let's see. It seems like they're playing a game of chicken, where, okay, now we're going to repeal any and all, even the ability to ever in the future cap in any way greenhouse gas emissions, because we have now declared them safe.
Except it's being done, through an executive order?
I don't know if it's the EPA has done it. Obviously Trump told them to do it. I don't know if it's an official executive order, but yeah, the EPA has said
regardless,
they're safe. Yeah.
It's anything that can be done by executive order can theoretically be undone by executive order. So if you get a moderate slant, sensible Republican or a Democrat, one of the first things one would expect them to do is literally, sign legislation, or not legislation, but sign executive orders that countermand literally every single executive order that the orange shit given did.
Yeah.
Which is a temporary fix, because the damage done by dismantling all these organizations, changing regulations and everything, and selling off public lands, what have you, in theory can't be undone that easily or that quickly with just a signature, because now you've got people that, I was doing this, I'm not in violation, the rules changed. And you have to give them time to change back, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that's part of the game that's being played here. It's not so much chicken, although that's an element of it. It's a sense that they know that by doing all the shits that they're doing, that they're very likely to be out of power come midterms and, in 2028. And that's the idea, is that, okay, our successor regime inherits this blivet, this 10 pounds of crap in a 5-pound bag, this steaming mess. You have to fix it. And you can only go on blaming the previous administration for so long before people stop hearing that and start hearing excuses of, I can't do anything for you. And then they go back to, okay, well, if you can't, then obviously an authoritarian right-wing extremist will be able to do so, because they're promising to do it. They're not telling us how they're going to do it, but they're promising they will fix it.
I do like to point out, and not, the number of people who told me, And I said, you know what, let's make a deal. If Mexico doesn't pay for the wall, you will never vote Republican ever again. And they're like, he's going to make him do it. He's going to make him do it. And I was just like, he can't and he won't. Mexico's not. And now they've all forgotten that was, it's like they want to save money. They want the wall. So Trump gave them both. We're going to build the wall, but Mexico's going to pay for it. Now everyone's forgotten that Mexico was supposed to pay for it, but they remember the wall. It's like, who's going to pay for and it's the loss of institutionalized knowledge is a thing. It's a huge thing. The summer camp that I think they lost 23 children from flooding in Texas, and they discovered that one of the problems actually was not as sort of everybody had predicted, the cuts at NOAA directly. It wasn't that there was insufficient warning sent, but the people who used to send those warnings would double check on a follow-up if the warning was severe enough during certain times of year, just because they'd been around, they had seen it, and they understood that you had to follow up on these things because otherwise they got lost. The new people replacing had never done this before. They're just like, oh, we sent the warning, we did what we're supposed to do, and didn't follow up on it. There's no procedure to follow up. It was just the people who had been there for 20 years who were just like, no, you follow up. Because...
Yeah, but they were all hired as DEI hires.
Yeah. Wow. So that's you can undo all of those things, but getting back that institutional knowledge and getting back the efficacy of the systems. It's a
perfect example of what happened when the Navy in the Reagan era buildup decided it was going to reactivate the 4 Missouri-class battleships. They literally had nobody who knew how to run half the systems on those ships. They were all, retired ages ago. And so they had to go out and make special arrangements to recall some of these people to active duty, even though they were, in their 60s and 70s, because they were literally the only people who still knew how the system worked.
Oh my God.
And the longer we take before we get back to putting these, governmental departments back together after, Musk's little episode, the more difficult it becomes to get those up and running at the level that they had been doing before. And I think a fair equation is, for every year you wait to restore it, you're looking at a minimum of 2, probably 3 years to get it back to that level of performance.
That's an interesting rule of thumb. Yep.
Right. But the other part is even more alarming, is that who is going to want to hire into those federal jobs after it has been shown that even though there's tons of regulations in place to protect you from being fired, if the president wants it done, it can be done at his whim anytime in a week. I can't imagine how many federal workers got given their pink slips and are now significantly reduced in their standards of living, probably had to, sell their houses at a loss to have money to live on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep. And a few probably are in better situations. So in either case, the better or the worse, in order to get them back, you're going to need to offer them more than you were paying them the first time to offset the increased risk.
You're going to have to offer more. And that's exactly what happened with the Navy and the Army and all the other services. After Vietnam, everything had slumped down to a nadir where there was nothing. And then you see, to get re-enlistments and enlistments and people coming in, Reagan approves massive pay hikes and improvements in programs designed for those people. And that's what brings a lot of folks into the service. Now, honestly, that's not why I joined.
You joined because your friend left you.
I was like, wow, I got in just under the edge.
I was gonna say, didn't you go with a friend and then that happened to Merck, but I sort of no, you had said you told me the
I've
story.
been looking for a job.
Yeah.
And doing my daily go through the newspaper and circle the jobs that looked interesting. And one of them was federal management positions. I figured, I'll be working for the Forestry Service or Department of Transportation. So I called up and the phone was answered with Navy opportunities. And I literally started to put the phone down to hang it up. That's how close to not being in the Navy I was. And I figured, well, what the hell? I'll hear them out.
If you hadn't
25 years later,
if you had put that phone down, you would not have learned of the horrors of lemon chiffon ice cream.
Oh,
yeah. It's just
this was a pleasant show until you mentioned that, sir.
Sorry, I got nasty. I know I had hit below the belt there. Sinister Porpoise for 256 still makes more sense than becoming a teacher. Yeah, especially I got out right before Bush had what's her name come into the department, the secretary of it. And I had all my friends. I still had all my friends at the school, and I was talking to them, and they're like, "Nick, you would not believe what's going on." She had never been in a private school. She was another one of those. She was institutionalized into that system. Her children had gone to, I don't think it was charter schools, but it was Betsy DeVos is the one I'm thinking of. Were you going to say something or?
No, I totally agree with you on that. Yeah, the damage that she did was huge, and the reality is it was done specifically to enrich herself.
Yeah. Yep.
Because her family is the major stockholder in many of the companies that do all the standardized testing that's required and run all the courses where if you want your kid to get into the good schools, they have to go through the prep courses to take the standardized test, and they run those. Yeah, it's a scam. Huge scam.
I remember that now. Yep. And Betsy DeVos. Why did I think DeVos was Bush? But yeah, it makes more sense that she was Trump. Yeah. Dear Lord. All right. Well, before we go, this is a bit of a cringeworthy show. I do apologize. We started with a serious bit of cringe, and we're going to end with a little cringe. I do apologize, but it's just I can't let this go on. I don't know that there's that much to talk about in regards to it. Maybe we can, but okay. This is Sydney Sweeney, who did a ad campaign for blue jeans, and the ad campaign is getting not a lot of flack, but people are getting upset because there's a video as well, and in the video she talks about her jeans are blue and this and that, but she starts talking about jeans in terms of she got her jeans from her parents, and she some idea of either white nationalism, that blue jeans are for white people. It's going around. At any rate, because of this furor, or for whatever stupid reason, Don Jr. saw this. Yeah, I saw your face right before I put that up. On
I haven't even seen it. As long as you say Don Jr., I know how bad it's going to be.
Saw this and said, "Oh, that's sexy." And he said, "Do you want to see something really sexy in jeans?" And he tweeted this. Now, Don Jr. himself got this done by AI, and was talking about how sexy this was. wow. And again, you can see the obvious, So first of all, he did this in defense of, and this was because of the complaints about white nationalism being tied to this Blue Jean commercial. So for whatever reason, A, he thinks, well, if it's got to do with white nationalism, better get my dad involved. And then B, decided to make it about a sex thing. It's like, well, I will get you that, Titan. No problem.
Remember, this is the man who brought up Arnold Palmer.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. Oh, she wasn't my daughter, I'd really go for her, that kind of stuff.
And so you can see, and there's a whole, I haven't put it on the Discord because I'm like, I don't know where to put it. It doesn't belong in news. We don't have an ick section or just a section on the Discord, which is probably where that would go. It's almost news because it really is. I mean, the idea that Don Jr. decided to bring this up in regards to complaints about white nationalism and an ad that kind of looks like it's making the argument because she talks about her genes from her parents and, she's white but she's wearing blue and all this other. That he would defend it by using his father and then his father in that commercial and then saying how sexy his dad was. I can't believe excuse me, I'm sorry. I need a minute. I can't believe I just said that sentence. I realized I was like self-editing as I was.
Little Mr. Mushroom is your friend.
Yeah. So I don't know, since you obviously hadn't heard about it. It hasn't become that big a deal. The only thing that's in terms of if you're for, I think this was Jordache. If you're for Jordache or whatever the gene company is that's doing this, that Donald Jr. did that is like you're saving well. The topic was genes and white nationalism, and now it's this Donald Trump Jr. sexualizing his dad.
There's $3 million for an ad campaign down the drain.
Yeah. So, and there is, people have been kind of trolling him and talking to him, and he's been responding. He's like, well, why wouldn't I think? It's just like, wow. Oh, my God. So, I'm not following it. Because I don't want to follow it, but because it is news appearing in it. Oh, it's American Eagle. Thank you. Don't get sued. Yeah, thank you. Yes, I knew it was one of the other. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, it was American Eagle. Sorry, don't want to get Jordache, Levi's. Don't want to get any of them. It was bad enough. All right, so that's it. We've now thoroughly, we've somehow managed to get negative subscribers. I don't think that's ever happened before, but I think the Don Jr. one did it. Any final thoughts before we go?
Not really. It's this is all a conundrum that is as old as time. I'm sure that there were Roman equites class people that had these kind of arguments back in that period about, this senator and that senator. It's the optimates and the primes. It's just the plebs. Sorry. You keep hoping that we as human beings, we in a country where we have all these advantages, would start to realize that we can be better than that. But instead, we slide right back into that same sewer. And we've done it many times. It's not a surprise. It's human nature, I think. And the best you can hope for is putting in place systems that prevent the worst of it from occurring.
We absolutely have evolved, right? I mean, we're not the great apes, the violent great apes of our descendants, but we still haven't gotten rid of all of the vestigial, what is it, the stamp of our lowly origins, as I think Darwin put it. And yeah, you keep hoping like, okay, we developed language, we developed this, we developed that. I keep thinking that, oh, I'm living in the era where we're going to develop enough common sense to realize we should stop shooting ourselves collectively in the foot. And I think the older I get, the more I look at all of the people over the last 2,000 years who were dead certain, willing to bet their lives that they were living in the end times. This is, all the signs are here that Jesus is coming back next year, this year, sometime while I am here and alive, and it doesn't happen. And I'm just sort of realizing, if we make it long enough to a point where we can have more compassion and realize that that's actually in our own best interest, that when we treat everybody humanely, it does, the rising tide lifts all, it's best for all of us. If we don't figure that out fast enough, I'm concerned, but I don't think we're going to figure that out in my lifetime. Some people have figured it out. I guess you just have to have a tipping point where there's enough, and they ostracize the people in society who don't, and we'll see. All right, well, thank you once again for frittering away another hour with me, Lance. It's always a delight to see you.
Thank you, and it's always a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Sinister Porpoise, for and I want to make sure I didn't miss anything before we go. I got everything. Thank you all for your support, for becoming members. Also, come join us on the Discord, and you can follow in with the news. Tonight, there are a number of tariffs. This is the final deadline. They haven't knocked this was after knocking the deadline back twice. Presumably, this is the final deadline. We will see what happens. But barring any breaking news, our next show is a Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, in time with 𝐒𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐿𝐴. I strongly suspect we'll have a show or two in between then. But until then, I hope everyone has a delightful weekend, and thank you all for joining us. Have a good night.